Control is not just a game. It is an experience, a hypnotic dive into the unknown, a psychological unraveling that blends the surreal with the sublime. It doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't explain itself, and yet, somehow, it consumes you. From the moment Jesse Faden walks into the oldest house, you're not merely playing, you're searching for meaning, for truth, for her lost brother Dylan, for the nature of control itself. Jessie doesn't just enter the oldest house, she becomes part of it. The building, a cold and brutalist tower hidden in plain sight in the middle of New York City, is more alive than it appears. It's a shape-shifting, reality-bending monolith filled with haunted corridors, secret rooms, floating corpses, and echoes of voices that don't belong in our dimension. It's not just a setting, it's a character in its own right, one that speaks in riddles, that hides its heart, that seems to resent your very presence. And yet, you're compelled to push forward. Jessie's quest begins with a purpose: to find Dylan, the brother taken from her 17 years ago after a childhood trauma the Bureau buried in redacted files and black ink. She's drawn to the FBC not just by desperation, but by Polaris, a mysterious, resonant, spiral-shaped entity that communicates with Jessie deep inside her mind. Polaris isn't a sidekick, it's a lifeline, a guide through madness. But whether Polaris is a savior or a manipulator remained the question that Control never fully answers, and that's the beauty of it. The game thrives in that liminal space between clarity and confusion, between cosmic horror and bureaucratic satire. Jessie arrives to find the Bureau in chaos. The former director, Zachariah Trench, is dead by apparent suicide, and his gun, the service weapon, calls out to Jessie. She picks it up, and in that moment, something ancient awakens. The weapon is not just a tool, it's an object of power, a resonant shape rooted in our collective unconscious. It warps, it changes, and it bonds with Jessie, transporting her to the astral plane, a white void policed by a massive inverted black pyramid known as the Board. The Board doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in fragments, contradictions, capital letters, and glitchy dualities. And yet, it appoints Jessie the new director. From that moment forward, Control becomes a fight not just against an otherworldly invasion, but against the very idea of structure and meaning. The hiss, an insidious, resonant, invisible plague, has infected the Bureau. It whispers in loops, fills the halls with floating victims, and transforms agents into red-eyed monsters. But Jessie, with Polaris at her side, seems immune. Her mind is strong enough to push the hiss back, to reclaim control points throughout the building, and anchor parts of reality back in place. She meets Emily Pope, a brilliant, enthusiastic scientist who becomes a rare ally in the madness. Through Emily, Jessie begins to understand that the Bureau has been dealing with objects of power and altered world events for decades. The Bureau is not evil, not entirely, but it is dangerous. It experiments, it contains, it hides. And Jessie is no longer just an outsider. She's now leading the very institution that ruined her family. As she journeys deeper into the oldest house, Jessie discovers that Dylan was once intended to be director, Prime Candidate 6. She, Prime Candidate 7, was left in the wild, monitored as a control group, the human baseline. But Dylan didn't become director. He was corrupted by the hiss and held in the Panopticon, the Bureau's prison for powerful entities. Jessie finds him, or rather, he finds her, but he's not the brother she remembers. He's erratic, terrifying. He speaks in riddles, warns her about Polaris, and claims the hiss is freedom. He becomes Jessie's mirror, an inverse shaped by the same trauma. Jessie's response is not to destroy him, but to understand. That's what sets her apart. Her investigation takes her into the heart of the Bureau's sins, into the classified files and ghostly recordings of the ordinary AWE. She and Dylan, as children, found a slide projector that could open doors to other realities. the projector became an object of power, and one of the slides, slide 36, opened the door to Polaris. But other slides brought nightmares. One, connected to a being known only as Not Mother, caused every adult in their hometown to vanish. Polaris helped Jesse burn the other slides and close the projector, but the damage was done. The Bureau arrived, took Dylan, and left Jesse behind. The projector was locked away. Director Trench kept one of the burnt slides, and in his fear, in his delusion, he eventually used that slide again, unleashing the hiss and triggering the events of the game. The story spirals outward as Jesse learns of Dr. Darling, the Bureau's missing head of research. His haunting video logs speak of Hedron, a benevolent entity tied to Polaris, which Darling brought into the oldest house. Hedron became the bridge, the reason Jesse could hear Polaris at all. But even Hedron wasn't safe. In the final chapters, Jesse accidentally allows the hiss to breach Hedron's chamber. Polaris is lost. Jesse's mind fractures. The game rolls credits, but it's not over. The credits themselves distort, twist, and crack. Jesse wakes up in a surreal nightmare where she's a paper-pushing bureaucrat stuck in a never-ending time loop. Trapped in the hiss of illusion, she sees visions of herself, of Trench, of Dylan, all fighting for the seat of the director. It's a metaphysical war, a battle for identity, for purpose, for meaning. But Jesse doesn't give up. With help from Ati, the janitor, who might be more than human, and a message from Darling in the astral plane, she breaks the illusion. She reclaims her connection to Polaris, now housed within herself. She confronts the truth. Trench, manipulated by the hiss, reactivated the projector. Darling saw it coming. The HRE devices saved a few lives, but the Bureau was already lost. Jesse, newly empowered, shuts down the slide projector and ends the invasion at its source. She faces Dylan one last time, not as an enemy, but as a sister. She purges the hiss from his mind, and, miraculously, he survives. Comatose, but alive. And then, the Bureau is hers. The lockdown ends, the building quiets. But nothing is truly resolved. The oldest house still shifts. The hiss still lingers. Polaris is still watching. And Jesse Faden, a girl from Ordinary, now carries the weight of a reality-bending institution on her shoulders. Control ends where it began, in uncertainty. It doesn't give you neat answers. It doesn't need to. It's a game about questions, about perspective, about belief. It's about a woman who walked into madness and made it hers. It's about a world where telephone hotlines speak from the dead, motel keys open dimensional gates, and typewriters hum with sentient power. It's about control, who has it, who loses it, and what it means to surrender it. Control isn't just a story, it's a state of mind, a message written between static, a maze that shifts behind you. And in its quiet, humming mystery, it dares you to look deeper, to open that final door, even if you're not ready for what's on the other side. Because maybe, just maybe, the answers don't matter. Maybe what matters is the resonance. Maybe what matters is that Jesse Faden, with all her flaws, became the director. Not because she wanted power, but because she had to. Because she was the only one left standing when the Bureau fell. And in that act of stepping into the unknown, of choosing to fight the chaos instead of run from it, Jesse gave us one of the most unforgettable stories in gaming history. A story not told through exposition, but through feeling, through silence, through the way the walls breathe when you're not looking, through the red light on the horizon that never quite fades. Control is unforgettable because it makes you question everything. The game, the story, yourself. And when the final screen fades to black, all you're left with is that lingering hum, that question you can't shake, that slide you never opened, that voice in your head that might not be yours. Control doesn't end. It echoes forever.